Hey everyone, this is Jay from Boulder Creek Railroad, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to install a DCC drop-in decoder into a Kato GS4. Let's get into it. So starting off, I'm going to talk about how you can install one of these decoders, or like the parts and some of the criteria for it. So first off, you're going to need a Kato GS4, but you're going to need one that's from 2017 to now. Those models specifically had the fix with the DCC issues with the rear driver. They also have the drop-in decoder capability. If you do not know if your model is from 2017, there's an easy tell. It's simply in the lettering of the locomotive. If your daylight locomotive in the classic daylight paint scheme says Southern Pacific Lines, that means you have a 2017 or newer version of the GS4. If you have the black BNSF excursion scheme, that also means you have a 2017 version, and you have a wartime black GS4 with the big Southern Pacific lettering on it, then you're good. If you have a GS4 and it says on here on the orange part, if it just says Southern Pacific, it's not 2017. And also if it's in American Freedom Train colors, it is also not 2017. Unless, of course, you custom painted yours, but that's a good way to know. I would also just check your box, see if it's from 2017 or newer, just kind of get an idea. If it isn't from 2017 or newer, you cannot do this install. So, with that out of the way, we can now get into some of the parts. You're going to need a ESU loksound 5 58731 micro DCC decoder. This one says blank, but it isn't. I bought this one from Tony's Trains, and they installed the GS4 sound files onto it. If you do decide to purchase this decoder, you are not going to have the sound files on it unless you purchase them from a place like Tony's Trains, where they can download the sound files for you. That, of course, being if you do not have the capability of downloading sound files. The speaker I used is a ESU 15x11 loksound sugar cube speaker. I did, in fact, make the baffle for it and assemble that, and I already soldered it to the decoder, so it's really easy to install for me. Now, let's get into the actual install. So, you're just going to take off the shell of the tender here. It's really quick. Pop it right off. There you go. And you're going to see here, you're going to have the metal weight. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see that a little bit better. So, you're going to take off the metal weight on the locomotive, and you're going to have the blank board here. You're just going to take the shell, slide this guy back, get your fingers in there, and pull it out. This is just simply the DC board for the locomotive. So the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to take your ESU decoder here, and you're going to press down, I like to press down right here on the model so it pushes these tabs up. You take it, put it down in here like so. So it's going to take me a second here. And slide it all the way in. And there you go. So now it's installed. That's it. It's really that quick. But there's one other thing. So assuming that you got the exact same 15x11 sugar cube, it's going to fit in right about there. But there is a problem. If you look on the inside of this shell, you can see there's a nice big cylinder here that's for the weight, keeps the shell in place. And there's also the light here. There's a little bit of a thing here now. I already cut mine, but on this little jewel on the light, there's a little stick that sticks out. You're going to want to cut that off. So simply just pop out the jewel by pushing on it. It'll pop out, cut that part off, and then reinstall the jewel. And then you'll have space for the speaker of the locomotive. To reinstall the locomotive, you're simply going to take your weight, pop it right back on, and now it will stay in place. Take your sugar cube speaker. You can glue it in here. You don't have to. I don't, or at least I didn't on mine. And you're just going to pop the shelled locomotive back on. And now your locomotive has DCC sound. Now, there is one thing about this decoder that kind of sucks. The way Kato made this locomotive prohibits the ability for you to have light function of the locomotive. This will allow you to operate the locomotive, your speed and, move forward, backwards, and whatsoever, and sound as well. but you will not have control over the lights. One of the things I struggled to find out while I was doing research on this locomotive is if the locomotive lights, like, do they work on DCC? And yes, they do. So basically the lights will always remain on the locomotive. The lights will still flash, they'll be full brightness. So they will work on the locomotive, but you will not have control over them. So you won't be able to turn them on or off. Now, personally, that's not an issue for me because I never run a steam locomotive without the lights on. And this is a GS4, it has a Mars light. I don't know why you wouldn't run it with the lights on. But if you do want to run this locomotive with the lights off, you're going to have to take out the shell of the locomotive. Just pop the cab off here, if I can get it off. There you go. And pull this out. And you're going to come to the light board. I'm going to zoom in here so you get a better look at that light board. So now that we're looking at the light board here, you're going to pop the light board out of the locomotive. And you're going to just take off all these little plastic jewels and things for it. And you're going to come here and you're going to see that there are these little copper tabs. These come into the part of the frame about right here, and they just kind of slide on there. But if they are touching the frame, you will not have, this will just continue to flash. So if you want to have control, take off these copper tabs and then solder the light part of the decoder, put 2 wires up to the front of the locomotive and solder them to where these tabs should be on the light board. This will give you complete control over on and off of the light board. However, you will not have control over individual lights. So you will not have control over if you just want the Mars light on, or just want the headlight on, or just want the number boards. If you want to do that, you're going to have to pretty much do some wacky work to the light board. I highly suggest you don't do that unless you're very, 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 very good at doing DCC installs. For me, I don't need to do that. I didn't really think I should because I like the GS4 the way it is with the light board already. If you want a backup light, you're going to have to custom install one yourselves. There is no light in the back of the locomotive. So that kind of concludes the whole install of a Kato GS4 for this new decoder that came out from ESU. Again, it is a ESU 58731 loksound 5 micro decoder, and I am using a 11 by 15 loksound sugar cube speaker. So with that out of the way, let's go run the locomotive upstairs, and I'll kind of go through the basic functions of the decoder. So here we are at the turntable. We're just going to kind of go through some of the basic sound functions of the decoder. I already programmed my decoder to the address 4449 because that's the number of this locomotive. Of course, the decoders will always come blank and they will come programmed to address 3. I just like to program mine to the number of the locomotive that I have. So without further ado, let's just kind of go over some of the basic sound functions of this guy. So we'll start off with 8. 8 turns on and off the noise of the locomotive. That's kind of it. It's just called drive sounds. Function 0, of course, controls the lights, but in this circumstance, since the lights are not connected to the locomotive, we have no control over that. So function 0 is useless. F1 is bell. F2 is whistle. All right. F3 is coupler noises. F4 is coast mode. That only works when the locomotive is moving, and I'll show that while we do some moving. Those are just some random noises that it does when it's idling, but didn't want to interrupt it. Let's see here. F5 is Mars lights. Again, since we have no lights connected to the locomotive, that won't work. F6 is cab lights. Again, no lights are connected, so that doesn't work. F7 is switching mode. This basically just slows down the locomotive. Again, F8 is drive sounds. F9 is heavy load mode. Basically, the locomotive will kind of slow down and the chuffs will get heavier. F10. That's new. Never heard it do that before. Anyway, F10 is independent brake. F11 is coal shoveling. I'll do that one. I get coal shoveling doesn't really make sense since this is an oil burning locomotive, but regardless, it is there. F12 is dimmer. Again, another light function that we have no control of. So is F13, that is class lights. I'm not going to get any further into the rest of these. I will say F21 is air horn. As a GS4 locomotive, that's pretty important. And there's a couple others here that you could do. Water refill, dumping, sand valve, curve squeal, grade crossing, safety valve, blowdown, etc. There are 31 total functions on this locomotive. All of them have been filled. So there's quite a lot of sounds on this locomotive. So now that we've kind of gone over some of the basic sounds of the locomotive, let's just get some beauty shots of it running.